After Genghis Khan captured Samarkand, the capital of the Khwarezmian Empire, only one major city remained, Urgench, also known historically as Gurgenj. All the other major cities had already fallen, and the smaller towns surrendered without a fight. Urgench, located in present-day Turkmenistan near the lower Amu Darya River, was the former capital of the Khwarezmian Empire. Even though the capital had been moved to Samarkand after Shah Muhammad took the throne, Urgench remained a major political and commercial center. The Shah's mother, Queen Mother Tarkan Khatun, along with several of his concubines and royal family members, still lived there. If Samarkand was the Loyang of the empire, Urgench was its Changan, a city of great wealth, history, and cultural importance. But that glorious city was about to be wiped off the map. In the autumn of 1220, a massive Mongol army, numbering in the hundreds of thousands, surrounded Urgench. Genghis Khan, who was still managing affairs in Samarkand, appointed his eldest son, Jochi, to lead the siege, with his other sons, Chagatai and Ogedei, serving as deputies. Genghis had promised to give Urgench to Jochi as part of his inheritance, so Jochi didn't want to destroy the city. He hoped to take it intact. But Chagatai didn't care about that. He just wanted to storm the city and burn it to the ground. The tension between the brothers ran deep. There had always been rumors that Jochi wasn't Genghis Khan's real son because Genghis's wife had been captured for a time before Jochi was born. Chagatai often used that rumor to question Jochi's legitimacy, and the two had nearly come to blows in the past. Now, at the gates of Urgench, their personal feud turned into a serious problem. Despite Genghis Khan naming Jochi the official commander, Chagatai refused to cooperate. The Mongol army, divided in leadership, spent 7 long months besieging the city and failed to take it. When Genghis Khan heard about the stalemate, he was furious. He stripped Jochi of command and gave it to his third son, Ogedei, who had a better relationship with both brothers. Ogedei calmed tensions and restored order. With the army finally united, the Mongols captured Urgench in just 7 days. What followed was one of the bloodiest massacres in Mongol history. The entire military garrison was executed. Young women and skilled craftsmen were selected and spared. The royal family, including Queen Mother Tarkan Khatun, the Shah's concubines and his daughters, were taken captive. The princes and male royals were killed. The rest of the population was slaughtered. According to historical records, over 600,000 people were killed in the massacre of Urgench. But the Mongols weren't done. To make sure no one survived, they broke the levees of the Amu Darya River, flooding the entire city. Those still hiding in basements and ruins were drowned. The fall of Urgench marked the final collapse of the Khwarezmian Empire. In just 2 years, the Mongol Empire had completely wiped out the dominant power in Central Asia. What had taken centuries to build was erased in a matter of months. Even though Genghis Khan had already conquered the Khwarezmian Empire, he hadn't forgotten about the man who started it all, Sultan Muhammad II. Genghis ordered his top generals, Jebei and Subutai, to lead 20,000 Mongol cavalry westward in hot pursuit of the fleeing Sultan. At first, Muhammad fled to the city of Bamiyan in present-day northern Afghanistan. When he received the devastating news that Samarkand and Urgench had both fallen, he was shocked and terrified. He had believed that the massive armies he left behind would hold off the Mongols. But in just 2 years, his entire empire had been wiped off the map. As he desperately questioned fleeing soldiers about the Mongols' whereabouts, they told him a Mongol force of 20,000 horsemen was already heading straight for him. Panic took over. That very night, Muhammad decided to abandon Bamiyan. As he prepared to escape, he couldn't stop cursing the commander of Otrar, Inalchuk, the man who had executed the Mongol trade caravan and triggered this entire disaster. He also blamed his own mother, because Inalchuk was her nephew. When Genghis Khan first sent envoys demanding that the killer be handed over, it was Muhammad's mother who intervened, protected her nephew, and encouraged her son to kill the Mongol envoys instead. Now Muhammad was filled with regret, anger, and fear. He knew that if he had simply handed over Inalchuk, he could still be enjoying wine and luxury in his palace at Samarkand instead of running for his life. The next morning, as the people of Bamiyan watched, Sultan Muhammad quietly slipped out of the city, taking with him his royal guards and a hoard of treasure. When the townspeople saw the royal convoy preparing to leave, local leaders and religious scholars rushed to stop him. They begged him to stay and defend them. Muhammad lied. He told them he was going on a hunting trip and promised to return soon to lead the defense against the Mongols. He even urged the townspeople to build higher walls and dig deeper moats to prepare for a siege. But it was all just talk. The moment he got out, he rode away as fast as he could. Eventually, Sultan Muhammad made it to a small island in the Caspian Sea. There, exhausted from weeks of running and consumed by fear, regret, and anxiety, he fell seriously ill. A short time later, he died on that island, alone and far from the empire he once ruled. Before his death, he named his son Jalal ad-Din as his successor and charged him with one final hope: reclaim the Khwarezmian Empire. Jalal ad-Din would eventually return to fight, but that's a story for another time. Under Genghis Khan's direct orders, Generals Jabi and Subutai led 20,000 Mongol cavalry westward to hunt down Sultan Muhammad II, the man responsible for provoking the Mongol invasion. When they arrived at the city of Bamiyan, then part of Khwarezmian territory, the local people knew they stood no chance against the Mongols. Instead of resisting, they opened the gates peacefully and even sent a delegation bearing gifts and food to welcome the Mongols. Jebe and Subutai, however, stayed focused on their mission. They had no time for looting or revenge. The orders were clear: find and eliminate the fleeing Shah. The Mongols selected 3 local guides to help them continue the chase. The guides informed them that Muhammad had fled south toward Khorasan, a region that included parts of modern-day Iran, northern Afghanistan, and Turkmenistan. Muhammad had indeed escaped to Nishapur in what is now eastern Iran, but he was so paranoid and restless that he only stayed one night before running again. A few days later, the Mongols arrived at Nishapur. Once again, the locals surrendered without a fight, and no blood was spilled. From east to west, the Mongols were cutting across the empire without facing much resistance. But that streak ended at a small city called Saray. As Jebe and Subutai rode past the city, they had no plans to attack. It was just a minor stop, and their priority was still the Shah. However, the soldiers on Saray's city walls began mocking the Mongols, shouting things like, "You cowards! Go back where you came from." Big mistake. The generals immediately turned their horses around and ordered an assault. Using gunpowder-filled clay bombs, the Mongols blew open the city gates. Within an hour, the city was completely under Mongol control. Jebe ordered a total massacre. All the men were killed. The women were taken as slaves. All valuables were looted. Every building was set on fire. When the Mongols rode away, nothing was left. The city was a lifeless ruin. The women and treasure taken from Saray were sent as tribute to Genghis Khan. Meanwhile, Jebe and Subutai continued their pursuit of Muhammad, one fleeing, the other chasing, across nearly all of Persia. Eventually, Sultan Muhammad reached a small island in the Caspian Sea. Exhausted from months of running and crushed by fear, he fell ill and died. When Jebe and Subutai finally reached the area, they couldn't believe it at first. But after several confirmations, it was clear. The Shah was dead. Jebe quickly dispatched a messenger on horseback to inform Genghis Khan of the news. But Genghis didn't order them to return. Instead, he told Jebi and Subutai to keep going west into unknown lands. Their new mission: scout the distant lands of Europe for future conquests. And so the two Mongol generals rode on into a world the Mongols had never seen before. What came next would shake Europe to its core. The last time Europeans had seen such terror was during the age of Attila the Hun. But this time it wasn't Attila. It was the unstoppable cavalry of the Mongol Empire, and their nightmare had just begun.